Welcome to the link. I'm Brandon Johnson with VoigtJohnson Real Estate, and today we're back, and I have the pleasure to be joined by Josh Moon with The Real Virtual Vintage. Welcome. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Today, I'm excited because it's going to be what I would refer to as, I don't want to put it in the wrong context, but kind of a little bit of a success story on how your business has evolved post-COVID, or I shouldn't say while we're evolving through COVID, right? So that's exciting to me to hear your story on how you've transitioned into starting your own business. But maybe just tell us, introduce yourself. Where are you from originally? What are your interests, hobbies, that sort of thing?
Okay. Well, originally I'm from the Brandon area. I moved down here to go to school. Met my wife. She's from Sartell, so her name's Mandy. So we settled in here, moved here, have a couple kids. Xander and Laney. Xander's 7, Laney's 4. So been in the area a long time. You know, both kids are a lot of fun. We've had a good time raising them here in Sartell, and where Mandy's from. But the reason this kind of started, COVID hit in middle of March, and we kind of knew there was going to be some changes going on. And I'd been kind of wanting to find something else and leave my position anyway, so I wasn't laid off.
So you were at Hyundai in St. Cloud.
Yep, in the sales department. I did a bunch of different stuff there. I was in finance. I ended up on the management team in sales when I left. But I've been there for about 10 years. But it was just time to step away and do something else. So I already been kind of looking for a different avenue, a different way to do things. And then when the schools closed, a lot of people got laid off. A lot of people had to leave their job. I didn't have to leave, but between my wife's career and my career, one of us had to make an adjustment or it just wasn't going to work.
Like so many people are, I'm sure, having those discussions on how do we handle the family life that's changing and how do we still maintain our careers, right?
Right, absolutely. So, our also was no different. I decided it was my time I was going to step away and figure something out. So I really didn't have a plan. I just, quit the job, pulled the kids out of daycare, and just put the kids first, the family first, and we'll figure it out.
So I'm more curious than anything. You've been in the auto sales industry for 10 years. Yep. How did COVID impact? Did it, excuse me for my age, but I always go back to the 9/11 when everything just shut off then. But was it like the spigot just turned off for auto sales, or was it just a slow deterioration? Or kind of walk through what was the market like going from February to March and April
For the car business, from what I seen, it kind of shut it off pretty hard.
Yeah.
There initially, I know since after I got out of it, the manufacturers kind of changed their interest rates and their different manufacturing programs. So the car business did pretty well from what I've seen since then. But initially, it was a pretty hard shut off. The lights just kind of turned off right away, and everybody kind of took a back seat. Like every business did at that point. Yep. Everybody was like, "Whoa, what's going on? What's going to happen? If I go outside, am I going to die?" Kind of a thing. It was a lot of misinformation and people scared.
What was the financing world like? Because I know in our industry, in the real estate, there was like a 2 or 3 day window where there was just like everything was unknown. People were pre-qualified and then they weren't, or the interest rate literally overnight when people were being quoted 3% and went to 4.5% for a 2 day. Was that same sort of influx in?
Probably not really so much in the car business as the retail side of it. So things you get more of the instant approvals, or we don't have to go through as much as real estate does. So I think as far as people getting approved, that really didn't have too much of an impact on auto sales. But traffic coming in the store, absolutely. But as far as your approval process, I don't think that really took much of a hit for them. But
so had you always had this in the back of your mind that, hey, I'm looking at doing a secondary side hustle, whole new business, or kind of how did that process in your head evolve from I'm going to quit my job?
Yeah, I mean, I've been kind of, sneaking around in my garage for several years, so the process and doing the work wasn't anything I wasn't used to, but I'd always kind of thought that someday I could make some money on the side, and for the most part I was, here and there, kind of very informally, but and then kind of when that happened, I had to make some money, so I started kind of ramping it up a little bit, and then I got to the point where I was like, hey, well, maybe this could actually be a legitimate side thing, and then all of a sudden maybe this could be like an actual, you could turn this into a full-fledged full-time business.
So what did you start doing? I take it you're handy with just refurbishing anything, building, mechanically inclined. How did it start with toys, or how did it start?
I think it started with toys for the most part because my kids are 7 and 4, so
sure.
I mean, there's always a putting
stuff together.
So if something doesn't work out or doesn't sell, at least there's somebody there to ride it. I can justify it somewhat. But, so I had 3 pedal tractors at the time. I sold 2 of them. Bought one that was a little bit more expensive, totally redid that one, and then sold that one. So it kind of started from there. And then I've had a few Tonkas and that kind of stuff lying around too. So I've done those. did a sled a little while ago. I've done some other stuff as well. So, I mean, everything's kind of, when you get into the vintage kind of toy world, or even just vintage in general, everything's got a screw or a nut or a hook or something somewhere you can figure it out.
Yep.
So I just kind of went from there. But
yeah, so did it start, and we were kind of talking about this a little earlier, kind of started off, you're doing it on the side. What made you get to the point, was it just an increase in business or demand where you said, hey, it's time to stay home with the kids and do this full time? Or walk me through that mindset or process.
I think it was a little bit of both. I thought after I spent, my third, fourth, fifth day in the garage with paint fumes everywhere, I don't want to be done with it. But, then you start to meet people, and the phone starts to ring, and you get people telling you this story and that story, and they're like, could you help me out with my great grandfather's tractor that I can't quite figure this one piece out?
That's got to be a cool feeling.
It's just a fun thing. I've been invited out to people's farms or out to the businesses where they want to show you this one piece, and what do you think of this? Where can I get this part? How can I fix this? And that's the kind of part that keeps you involved, keeps you going.
Yep.
It's hearing the stories and meeting the people and being out on the road. I've been to, just this summer, I've been to Duluth. I've been down to southwestern Minnesota. I've been to the cities multiple times, and all over the state, talking to people and meeting people.
So how are people hearing about you, or how are people getting your number to call to say, hey, Josh, come take a look at my
I would assume a lot of it's the magic of the internet. I mean, some of it I know from this person to that person, but for the most part, there's been a lot of times where I get a phone call or an email or a message, and I have to point out, ask the person, like, where did you find my information from? Because it's that bizarre, but it's just people it's word of mouth. I think it's the story thing too. It resonates with so many people. It's such a cool thing to be fixing something that's just been sitting in the garage forever, that people just like, it just spreads.
Well, and I think, the whole phenomenon, and not to make it a cliche, but the American Pickers phenomenon, and there's countless other shows, right, where they're restoring things. So it's become in vogue. And there's probably a lot of people sitting on, and I don't want to use the phrase junk, but stuff that they've always had the aspiration, hey, I should get this refurbished at some point. And now they're sitting locked up in their house all spring. Like, now
the time to go dig through it.
Now, hey, here's someone here that can do that, right?
Then you got too, I think people are always told that something has some value, it's worth money. So it's like, now they have time, let's try to contact the right people and see if it actually is. And then when they do that, they got to find somebody who can actually fix it or restore it.
What's the percentage? Is it people that say, oh, I have something valuable? Or is it, hey, this was my grandfather's that toy that just means a lot to me, I'd like to see this come to life again? Or is it a combination of both? But I'm just...
It's a combination of both. I get a lot of requests where it's, what is this worth? If I were to sell it, how much could I sell it for? And it's like, it's like the I don't know question. It's like, what kind of market are you going to bring it to? Is it going to be fixed or as it is? I get lots of that too. But a lot of it, people are just curious. They, this thing's been sitting there for generations. They don't know anything about it. They want to know, like, how old is it, where it's from? Like, if I wanted to get it fixed, how would I go about doing that? So
they're coming to you not only as the repair, or the hands-on refurbishing, but more, tell me about the history of this. So has that been fun to kind of, I suppose a lot of research goes into that.
It's fun too, and it's like you get into something, and you're only an expert as far as the room that you're in. So you think you know a lot about something, and you get involved in it a little bit deeper, and you're like, wait a second, I don't know a thing about this. So there's a lot. You have to kind of take a step back and admit that I gotta dig into that a little bit before I can get the right answer.
So you do a little bit of people bringing items to you, like we were talking about, and then do you have, I'm assuming you have your shop and kind of inventory, but do you go around to auctions, searning, looking for things, or what's that?
I go to a lot of auctions. I like the live, estate or farm auctions. Those are a lot of fun. All the old people get together and people milling around, and you get to see things and see what they go for. And even if you don't buy it, you can see kind of what the reaction was, what the excitement was, how that kind of went over in their minds. But so do a lot of that. I try to hit some garage sales too if I fast. I don't like those as much, but the estate sales and the auctions are nice too. So you get to actually mingle with the buyers and the people selling, and you get the kind of your market's there. That's the people that are doing that kind of stuff. So those are fun. But I always pay attention online too. There's always stuff here and there. If I need something, I'll go after it and try to find it used. I'm looking for a certain part or something.
So do you accumulate stuff and just say, hey, I have a vision, I can refurbish this, or you know what you're looking for, right?
At times. I look for like kind of the bigger items, like the pedal tractors or the sleds, or that really cool piece of furniture, or the piece of home decor that might be really neat. I try to find those types of things. So they're always fun.
And you mentioned you're open one day a week at your shop. Is that right? So, but primarily it's online. You get people all over the country. shipping everywhere?
Yep, shipping, communication. I got a Facebook page for right now. I'll probably a website here pretty soon. But yeah, a lot of it's online, email, social media, that type of stuff. But one day a week, I'm open if somebody just wants to pop by and see the process or drop something off or get a quote on something. But.
And your kids, I've watched you a little bit. Your kids are readily involved or willing and able helpers. That's got to be fun
they're a lot of fun
to stay home or to be involved with your kids in something versus going to work every day and coming home and.
I mean, that initially that was the whole mission. I mean, how do I find a way to not have to take my kids to daycare and pay for that, and not have to worry about school being closed or not. This way we can. My son's in school now full time for the most part. I don't have to worry about if there is school, if there's not school. Right now he's going to school, but if that doesn't happen, it's not a big deal. It won't disrupt our family like it did 6 months ago. It's a totally different deal. So they're there every day. They're involved. They don't always like to be out there doing stuff, but I mean, they're, they got a free reign of everything. But I got the most toys of any kid.
Yeah, it's like they got a whole toy shop, right? Have you ever had the scenario where they've had an attachment to a toy and you're selling it? You got to explain to them, hey, this is going away.
So what I've done is I'll get a different toy. I'll trade them. They'll keep that one.
I can imagine that it's something they're attached to, and that's got to be shipped off, and the tears come. I bet
it's not a huge deal, but it's kind of fun. For the most part, it's like whatever. I'll just keep that one for now. I'll sell it some other time. It makes it fun too.
So you kind of gone through hey, I just need to get established, right? I need to make sure this is a viable business. What's kind of the next step, or what's on the horizon for your business?
Probably the biggest growth is going to be the shipping. So we're doing some shipping now, and that's kind of where the future is going to be. So I got to get more involved in that and kind of get more of a streamlined process for that and get the kind of the bigger items planned for doing those. We're shipping smaller parts and that kind of stuff now, but eventually we're going to have to ship full size toys and trucks and whatever we find. So
are you talking like building crates, that type of thing?
Yep, that's the future.
Yeah.
There was soon as being, it's a small hobby kind of home-based business, something we can actually take into the future and make a real established brand. And have something that we could, hand down to generations and turn into a real business. So.
What about, and Devin and I were talking, obviously, your wife's well versed in the social media. What are you guys doing? Give me some tidbits on getting exposure to get awareness, because you said the phone's ringing, people from all over the state. What are you guys doing to
I follow a lot of her tips, a lot of stuff she's telling me to do, so to spend time doing this or that. My probably biggest problem is that I'll be able to, I can fix something, I'll create something, whatever, but I'm not really good at showing how I do it and how it's done. In today's market, that's what people want. They want the tractor they wanted to have done, but they also want a video that shows how you did it. And I'm terrible at that kind of stuff. So I've had to get better about getting the right equipment and the right tripods and that kind of stuff and doing those types of things that show what I'm doing.
Well, it creates more personal, a little bit of your story, and
absolutely does.
And gets a little more of a connection, right?
And that's what drives the whole brand of the business. I mean, I could sit in my garage and paint stuff all day long, but it's just not there. If there's no emotion behind it and no family or legacy or person behind the item, it's just it's just another thing. So.
Well, it made me think of, we have an agent in our office, Danielle, who hand makes fine leather purses or handbags, and she documents her videos. Each makes a very intimate experience for each purse, which I think just creates a higher level of not necessarily exposure, but an attraction to that, and it's more personable. And I think along your line of business, that goes a long ways as well too.
Yeah, we'll even look at what snowboard companies are doing now, or even auto manufacturers. They're making more videos now at the plant or at the factory, or showing some of the more of the process and how they're doing it. Look what Ford did with some of their newer sports cars. They come out with a couple videos and stuff just showing how the craftsmanship went into that, how they did it.
Well, it's funny you brought that up, because, and this is where I kind of get excited just learning about this, is Christina in our office, this was probably a year ago, she said to me in regards to Apple products, and she was telling me that they have a whole department, and I don't know how many people, that their specific focus is creating an experience when you take the product out of the box. And it was like that same week, my daughter she'd saved for it and got an iWatch, and it was funny because it just hit me in the head. She's like, this is my favorite part of the whole thing. She'd been saving for like a year, right? And she got it. And she was most excited for taking it out of the box. and it just hit me like a ton of bricks right in the face. It's like, it's the experience is as much of a draw as the actual stinking watch, right?
It's like an actual term now. The unboxing experience is something
Yes.
executives sit around a boardroom and they like talk about how that one piece of it is. It's crazy. For me, I'm like, I don't care about it. There's a reason I bought the thing to serve a purpose to do something. That's why I got it. You know, but
Right, but it's what creates the draw or the demand to your product and service. So it's just interesting to just pay attention to things, little things like that, that as two guys, we have no interest in. Just rip open the box. You don't care about the unboxing of it, but it's significant. It's real. So
yeah, when somebody calls me and they want me to do something, I can do that. Let me just show you how I did it. That's the part where I struggle. That's the part that people want, though. We have to get better at that.
Yep. So what's been your favorite? I don't want to just say toy, but refurbished. What's been your most memorable? That might be the most challenging thing, or tell me specifically, like, what's been the one that sticks out in your mind that you've done that meant the most to you? Or
probably the most recent one. I did a full restore on a tractor. I found one super cheap, and I thought it'd be a quick little one. I was going to paint it.
A toy tractor?
Yeah, a toy tractor.
Yep.
Pedal tractor. I was going to paint it pink for my daughter, because that's what she wanted, to be a super easy one. I started taking that thing apart, and it was like everything was like broken or crushed, or like every problem you think you could possibly have with this tractor, and it ended up just being a nightmare. I finally got it painted, and then I painted it too fast. I was in a hurry to get it done, and the clear coat wrinkled the whole entire thing. So I just stripped the whole thing out, repainted it. It was like a $200 budget tractor. It ended up just being a nightmare. Yeah. I got it all done. My daughter jumped on it, and she just absolutely loves riding it around. So we're actually going to be donating that one to my wife worked with a breast cancer charity a while back. So towards the middle of this month, we're going to be selling that one to. We're trying to do an auction or somewhere where we're going to sell it. The proceeds will go to that organization to help breast cancer research or breast cancer
Very cool.
patients.
So it was pink then, I'm assuming.
Yeah, the whole thing was pink. My dad freaked out. But
why are you turning my John Deere pink? Yeah.
But my mom she had diagnosed with breast cancer about 2 years ago, so now she's not totally over it, but she's out of the woods now and everything's she'll be just fine. But that organization actually donated some funds to help my parents pay some bills and stuff, and they're in the middle of it. So
very cool.
Try to get back a little bit.
Cool.
So nightmare tractor. Hopefully, it'll go to a good cause.
Yep. So vintage toys, obviously. What other things do you do? Like a lot of what comes to my mind is just like old antique soda machine. Do you do anything like that, or
I haven't done. I'd like to get one of those. Somebody offered me a pinball machine too.
Yeah, stuff like that.
Something like that. That and I think soda machines would be a lot of fun. I know there's a lot of them out there. I don't know a lot about them, but it's like anything else. There's a manual, there's a video, there's something somewhere that can tell you how to fix them. But
and ultimately, I'm assuming it's just the time to do. I mean, it's got to be a very intense.
Yeah, it's the time. One thing I've discovered is you have to have. I've got 5 different stations in my shop because you have to have that. You can't just work on one thing because and you can't put it away and bring it back out because you got parts and pieces all over. So you have to have these different spots where you can. One's waiting for parts, one's waiting for paint, one's waiting for the brains to fix that one yet. One's waiting for whatever. But, so it's kind of a different deal. But right now we're doing a lot of wood projects too. What's really popular is like the you can even take something new and make it look vintage or make it look a little older. So I've kind of learned some of the painting techniques to do that.
Sure.
Where you paint it one color and then you lightly sand it, and then you actually chip it a little bit and then fill some holes in with the wax, and then repaint over that, and the wax actually falls out, and then it looks like this old like vintage thing. So we're doing some of that stuff now too. I haven't totally got it figured out quite yet, but there's some cool pieces.
So did you do a lot of these projects like as a kid growing up, or I mean, this isn't a skill set that you just flip a switch and did you grow up like an industrial shop kid in school, or?
No, not really. I grew up on a farm.
Yeah.
And then I spent 4 or 5 years doing construction work, working through college. So just kind of worked on a dairy farm, worked on a deer farm, just being around a lot of different types of mechanics and tools and stuff. So when I got to be an adult, I guess I just wanted to find ways to keep tinkering with stuff. I had a different job. I worked in mental health for 10 years, and I worked in sales. So I carried a pen. That was pretty much it. For those 20 years I was working at that. So I always found ways to kind of tinker with stuff and play with stuff in my spare time. And, kind of develop from there.
And so it's always been an interest or a love.
Yeah, I've always had just a natural curiosity, I think, for different things.
Yep. Switching gears a little bit, how I first kind of thought of connecting with you is I saw the article in the St. Cloud Times. That had to be exciting, or because this is a relatively new. I'm just starting this out, but you mentioned earlier the community has been really supportive, or So tell me a little bit about just that interview or how nice it was.
Yeah, it's it's like anything else. It's crazy. I've been probably 2 months in at that point, but only a couple weeks I officially launched. So
yeah,
it was like 2 weeks in, and I'm already like, I get this phone call, and she's like, "Yeah, I want to interview for this thing called Times," and I'm like, "Dude, do I pay you for the free advertising?"
Yeah.
Just like kind of out of the blue, and did this story, and they sent out a photographer and did this, really huge piece in the Times talking about what we were doing. The next couple weeks at my shop, every Thursday, people coming here just.
Oh, I'm sure that had to be a great boost.
It didn't create a lot of like monetary business, but just the traffic, people asking questions and coming out and checking things out, and, bringing stuff by and like, "What do you think about this?" And I ended up buying a bunch of stuff that people brought by. They're saying, "Hey, we'd always had this. Would you make us an offer?"
Do you get a lot of that?
There's a fair amount of that.
Yeah.
It can be good and bad because at some point you gotta stop buying. At some point you're gonna go broke. But
right.
At the same time, you don't want somebody to come out to your shop for the first time and say, "Hey, do you want to buy this?" And then say no, and they gotta walk away disappointed. That's the first experience.
Right.
So that's always kind of frustrating too. So you kind of gotta walk that line all the time.
Yeah.
But that you get to see a lot of different stuff though. They bring stuff by. The stuff's been sitting in garages and basements for 30, 40, 50 years.
Yep.
That seems like a day, but it can be a lot of fun. It created a lot of traffic, and then like a week after that, some magazine from Melrose, like North Dakota Farm Toy.
Really?
I've never heard of. They came out with a story last week, and put in their magazine too. So it's just word just gets around. It's so cool to see that people just you're doing something right when you get that type of response from the community.
And I think just you've created a niche, for lack of a better phrase, and just go all in on, I don't know if you want to be the farm toy guy or the restore guy, but I think what you're alluding to is there is a demand out there, and people will come to you if you're seen as the foremost vintage toy guy in central Minnesota or Minnesota or whatever your aspirations are, right?
Yeah, I think even from that, it's, if you need something welded, you can find somebody for that. I mean, something fabricated, like those types of things are out there. But if you just have something you don't quite know what to do and just need it kind of painted or touched up or fixed, or this part doesn't quite work, there's not really for anything. You look at furniture, you look at tables, you look at toys, you look at like the vending machines you were talking about. Where do you go? You can find the parts on eBay, but where do you go to find somebody who's willing to, tinker with it to figure it out? There really isn't.
Well, and I think
like that.
it will continue, just my opinion, as more and more people evolve from, people in their 40s and 50s that kind of have some disposable income now to spend and want to, everyone, when you start getting in your 40s and 50s, becomes a little nostalgic about your childhood in some regard, right?
Right.
And you alluded to whether it's taking what my childhood represented and now sharing that with my kids, and toys are one way that's done. So I think there's a very high demand that in the next, few years would be great to take advantage of.
It'll be fun to see what we dig up. But I mean, it's pedal tractors of that generation. But for us, I mean, what's it going to be like? Old Disney toys, it's stuff we had in the 90s.
Do you do anything with that, like action figures, G.I. Joe?
I haven't yet, but I'm not opposed to it.
Yeah.
If that comes my way, I wouldn't mind figuring some of that stuff out too. There's a lot of like Star Wars stuff out there, and my daughter had a couple lightsabers, and we ripped them apart, and so there's a spring in there or something with the sword that comes in and out, but it's kind of a neat deal.
Yeah. Well, I can sense just the natural curiosity just on fixing things, right? And that's where it kind of stems from.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter as much. So what it is just learning and being able to figure it out.
Yeah, I had somebody drop off of one of them big old pink Cadillac Power Wheel toys.
Yeah.
We had a garage sale early in the store, so they just wanted us to give it away on the sale, and nobody wanted it, so I got pushed in the garage, and 2 months went by, it sat there, and finally we took all the plastic off and tore it apart and put it back together and threw a battery in it, and off it went. So there's lots of stuff out there. Somebody has to take the time just to take it apart and putz with it till it works. And it might take a fuse here or a wire there. Sometimes you got to putz past that third, fourth, fifth frustration point, but that'll work eventually.
Well, it's cool for me to hear through what 2020 has brought in so many regards, but someone that I just get the vibe that you probably, if you would have gotten the nudge 5 years ago, maybe done this. And it's so how things have kind of evolved, where half out of necessity, half out of it's now or never, and taking the ambition to do what you love if what you're doing isn't making you happy, right?
Yeah, and it's all the above. I mean, you wake up one day and you realize that life's pretty good, but you're pushing 40, and are you actually doing what you want to do? You know, like this is the time to figure it out. Your kids are getting older. You know, if you're not doing exactly what you're meant to or what you want to do, what are we doing?
Right.
You know, it's time to figure those things out. So
very well said. I couldn't have said it better myself. Josh, if people are looking to get in touch with you, how do they reach out to you? Through your website, Facebook, phone number? What?
Facebook's probably the best. Go to The Real Virtual Vintage on Facebook. My page will pop up. Shoot us a message. My phone number, address, email, everything's right down there. So I'll go to The Real Virtual Vintage. You'll find everything you need. Shoot me a message. Take a picture. Send me what you got. You know, nothing's off the table. If it needs to be fixed, or send it our way. We'll figure it out.
Cool.
We'll find a way to figure it out.
Anything toy related, needing rehab, or just questions on how does it work? What can I do? Josh Moon, The Real Virtual Vintage. Thanks, Josh, for coming in. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.